That's just sports, baby.
Crowd goes wild, strawberry ice, bringing fire and style. Reds, Bengals, Bearcats, all in my zone. This is my stage, my mic, my throne. Boom, like a hammer, I'm breaking the game. Strawberry ice, you're gonna know my name. Sports Talk Thunder, hear the podcast roar. Cincy's finest kicking down the door. Step into the ring where the passion ignites. Talking sports all day and all night. From the field to the court to the roaring stands. Strawberry ice with the world in my hands. Boom, like a hammer, I'm breaking the game. Strawberry ice, you're gonna know my name. Sports Talk Thunder, hear the podcast roar. Cincy's finest kicking down the door.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. This is Sports Strawberry Ice. I'm your host, Iceman Jeff Trunapole. And as always, I'll bring you sports from a West Side point of view right here in the great city of Cincinnati, Ohio, where it's freaking cold, tired of it, ready for summer. But anyway, as you know, I'm always coming to you live from that ice cave. Shout out to our sponsors, T Properties, quality housing for quality people. Check out their website at www.tpropertiesllc.com for all your rental property management needs and your rental needs. And Party Lawn and Landscaping for all your lawn and landscaping needs. I don't know, you need your grass cut, you need a paver patio, you need anything. I mean, anything. Maybe you're a do-it-yourselfer. Maybe you want to buy some mulch, some gravel. Take Party Lawn and Landscaping. And of course, Meyer Window Doors and more. I got them in my house. I highly recommend you get them in yours. Meyer Window Doors and more. And of course, my favorite brewery, Cincinnati Lager House. Go on down there to the banks, get you some delicious Lager House beer, some delicious Lager House food, and of course, tell all my sponsors you heard about them from Sports with Strawberry Ice. That's right. As always, shout out to all my sponsors, Prairie Lawn and Landscaping, T Properties, Lager House Cincinnati, and of course, Meyer Window Doors and more. Like I said, tell them you heard about from Ice. What is up to everybody in the chat? We've got Brad's in there, First Stranger, Ken's in there, Tony Blazin, Jennifer's in there, and Tony goes, "You're an Iceman. You shouldn't be cold." What's up? The Crypt Keeper just got in there. What's going on? You're right. Tony, I shouldn't be cold, but I am. You know, it happens, you know. And the funny thing is, I actually run hot. I'm usually, sweating a lot, but it's cold. I'm tired. I'm just tired of the cold. Anyway, what is going on? Are you guys planning on watching the USA versus Venezuela tonight? And we're all going to have to root against Gino. How can we root for Gino? Just not to do that great, because we want the U.S. to win the World Baseball Classic tonight. It's on at 8 o'clock. Versus Venezuela on Fox. If we win this, hey, the USA has been a roll. We won gold in men's and women's hockey with the two of them, and we won it in sled hockey. Now let's go win the gold in the World Baseball Classic. I think it would be awesome. So, news of the day, which really isn't news today. It's more of thoughts, I would say, that on what the Bengals possibly could do. Two linebackers, because I'm going to keep saying this. The need to add to linebacker room. Now, I said before free agency started, I might be kind of surprised I wouldn't be surprised if they don't add to this. But they need to add to this room. And one is after Cameron Jordan. He got released from New Orleans. Another one is, I'm not going to take credit for this, but it was on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. I thought James Rapien wrote the article, but somebody else wrote it. But James did retweet it, and I read it. Miami, they're having a fire sale. They're literally trading everybody. They just traded Waddle today. Why don't we try to go get Jordan Brooks? And in the article, they suggested this year's 4th and this year's 6th round pick to go get him. I'm all for it. He's on the end of his deal. The article says they probably would have to restructure him, but I always come back with this. It's the Bengals. Do they have to restructure him? If they trade for him, he's got to come play for him anyway. So I don't know how that would fit under the salary cap. But you know what? I know a guy who's a way smarter at all this stuff than I am. He is from the Orange and Black Insider Podcast. No, it is not the Godfather. It is his, I won't even say sidekick, his co-host, the man with the plan. It is John the Brain Sheeran. What's up, John?
For the record, I think strawberries are very much a warm weathered type of snack.
Yes.
So I feel like when it's 20 degrees out, a strawberry like yourself probably doesn't feel in its natural habitat.
Exactly. We like warm climate, but
Exactly.
like, when it gets like in Florida, I don't like going to Florida like August. It's really damn hot down there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of a spring strawberry, spring to beginning of summer strawberry, I guess. Anyway, what's going on, John? How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. I'm wearing my green. My last name's Sheeran. It's mandatory. I had my green noodles from Skyline and a Cholito. Actually, I didn't go to three-way with the Cholito because I love Cholitos and I always get them to go. So I had to partake.
I am actually, when I get out of here, I'm heading up to Skyline and getting my St. Patrick's Day three-way. I gotta get the green noodles. It's kind of a tradition thing. You gotta have Skyline around here on St. Patrick's Day. Excuse me. With that being said, the aura, I guess, or well, hell, I'll put on Paul Dana Jr. He's the one that wrote the article and said that the Bengals are done in free agency, which hell, he's probably right. They might be. So my question to you is: done in free agency? Does that mean done signing guys that are cap cuts, making possible trades? What is your gut feeling? Are they done with signing anybody until the draft?
I would say no. I think done means like any moves that like significantly change anything that has to do with the draft. Absolutely. Right. I think extending Orlando Brown Jr., I think Paul was right about that. It pretty much takes offensive tackle off the board in the first round, and everything after that is very much like depending on how the draft goes. I think signing Jonathan Allen definitely alleviates the immediate need for a defensive tackle. You have your top three there. You're probably going to keep at least one of Chris Jenkins, McKinley Jackson for the season. Maybe it's like a death match in training camp to see who makes it out of there, right? Boye Mafe is probably your Trey Hendrickson replacement, but they still need, another defensive end, right? I think that any signing that could happen here, very much like a Lucas Patrick situation, because obviously Lucas Patrick didn't prevent them from drafting Dylan Fairchild in the third round, right? But Lucas Patrick was brought in, I believe, almost exactly a year ago. He was like Wednesday.
Yeah, he was. I always forget that they actually did sign him during this period. I always talk about Slayton and the other linebacker. He slips my mind, but I always forget about him too. They did sign him, which, and I keep saying this. Last year sucked. I was upset last year. They really didn't do anything. So the thing that I find irritating, but I also understand why Bengals fans are upset. It's not like they didn't do anything. They did sign 3 legitimate starters, and they did not do that last year. You signed 1 last year. That was it. They signed 3 of them. So it's a hell of a lot better what they did last year, but it still is not what they needed. And I don't know about you, John. I did not expect the Bengals to sign 5 free agents, and I feel like that's what some Bengals expected them to do. 4? I thought that might be the highest they go, and if they get a linebacker, that could be their 4th one. Where are you at on your actual expectations to what the Bengals were going to do in free agency this year?
I was at 4 as well. I thought 2 defensive linemen, a linebacker, and a safety was going to be it.
Yeah.
So they had a 2 defensive linemen. I wasn't necessarily expecting a defensive tackle because it just wasn't a very strong class. And I think Jonathan Allen was kind of a surprise cut. And I mean, not to get on another topic, but obviously, when Trey signed his deal and the Bengals saw that, we have a 3rd round compensatory pick now. And the only major move that they made since Trey's deal became official was signing a cap casualty. It doesn't surprise me that, they see a guy that wouldn't affect the compensatory pick process, someone that could provide them the stability that they definitely needed at defensive tackle. It doesn't surprise me at all that they went out and got him. And, credit to them for presumably outbidding some other players or other teams for him, because that contract was a lot bigger than I expected for a guy like Jonathan Allen at this point of his career. So I commend them for that. I commend them for filling a need that I didn't expect them to fill. But yeah, I was 100% expecting a linebacker. Everybody in the city was expecting a linebacker at some point. It was a great class to need a free agent linebacker, and it's a pretty solid draft class to need a linebacker. But Ice, like, if the whole reason as to why linebackers struggled last year is because you threw in 2 rookies out there, and their heads were spinning, and the game was a lot faster than it was expected for them, which is very much naturally the case for linebacker, right? Yeah, like they were put into a losing situation. The answer to those problems is not another rookie, right?
No.
As exciting as Sonny Styles is, and he might be the only guy that you could throw in there and expect to just be a competent player immediately. You can't obviously hope that he lasts to the 10th overall pick for you. So that's a terrible plan if that is the plan. I don't expect that to be the plan anyways, but if it's not, like there has to be a veteran that comes in here eventually, because expecting Oren Burks to be anything more than what he was last year in the same scheme, I think is very hopeless. And that position group looks the exact same, and it's not very promising.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. I'm like, I can't, especially with the moves that they already made, I can't see them not adding a veteran linebacker to this group. And Cam Jordan, in my opinion, would be perfect, because he's and it goes with a lot of the guys that they already signed. They signed leaders. They signed, because John, how many times we talk about it the last year? There's no voice. Who's the voice in this defensive room? When DJ Reader left, Sam Hubbard left, Jesse Bates and Bella, those are all the leaders. They were all gone. We really didn't have a leader in this room. And I think out of the guys they signed, especially Jonathan Allen and Brian Cook, I think those guys can really be leaders in this team. And if you throw a guy in like Cam Jordan, he sure as hell can be a leader on that defense. And I do think he's still got some stuff left. So I'm very high on trying to get Cam Jordan. Plus, he's a cap casualty, or a cut casualty. So that's something the Bengals like. So I have no idea. Like I said, you are way better at the numbers than I am. Any idea of what he might, in your opinion, get as a contract, and could they fit that under the salary and all that stuff? How would that even work out? Do you know? If I'm throwing you on the spot here, I apologize.
Well, unfortunately, Cam Jordan was not a cap casualty. He was just a guy that, his contract just expired, so he's just a regular free agent.
Oh, I thought he got cut. My bad. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, him, Jadeveon Clowney, and Joey Bosa are all like these unrestricted free agents who I think would all like fill a immediate role for the Bengals, and like they need a fourth guy. Like they can't have Shamar Stewart be that third and just expect him to take on that role. And maybe they fill that with the draft, right? Maybe that is their plan, that because it's such a stacked defensive end draft class that they can find someone in the first couple of rounds. And if that's the case, then it may work out. But any of those guys would be great, but it would, unfortunately for them, it would cancel out the trade compensatory pick. And I think at this point, it's probably more money than they're willing to pay for that position. Like obviously with a rookie, that salary is locked in and they just have to take it. But I think with any of those 3 guys, including Cam Jordan, they're expecting a salary that reflects, a pretty significant role. And I think right now, like, I don't know if they're willing to offer that, because they still want Shamar Stewart to get snaps. And obviously Boye Mafe and Miles Murphy are your starters. So it's a kind of a weird situation. I think obviously everyone would like them to go out and get one of the top 3 guys, but I just don't see that happening based off of what they're likely to do, which is why, like, I think that they're more intrigued about adding like a linebacker that can play significant snaps rather than a defensive end. Like I think they've paid a lot of money for Boye Mafe, and they're pretty much done with that position until the draft. And again, they can probably fill it in the draft a little bit easier than linebacker as well.
Exactly. So what's and I'm going to mess his name up. Brian, he's from the Giants. That one he did get cut last week.
Bobby O'Hare.
Bobby O'Hare. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, not Brian. Bobby O'Hare. Now that one is another one I think I put if you follow me on Twitter or Facebook, I put a lot of stuff out there. He's another one I think that they could get, and I know he was cut. So could that one that could fit under what they need. What's your thoughts on possibly bringing him in?
I mean, that is as much of a slam dunk to me as it was re-signing Dalton Risner or extending Dalton Risner. It's just that, like, it's a cut player. It's a veteran who, his play fell off a little bit last year, but the whole Giants team was pretty much a mess, and that's why like they're going through this facelift right now. He's still 29. I think he's going to turn 30 in July. But someone that wouldn't be expensive, someone that you could probably just pay with the savings that you would get from cutting Oren Burks by just replacing him on the roster. He doesn't fit what Al Golden talked about needing in terms of a guy that can come down to the line of scrimmage and be that 34 off ball guy. But at this point, there are no options for that. Like you let all those options go in free agency, and it is a tough role to fill for a rookie as well, who to ask him to be like this combo backer. So I think at that point, that dream is dead. There are a couple other options that may be able to fill that, like Jelani Tavai from the New England Patriots, who was cut. I think he would make sense there. He was also a cam casualty. So I think Okereke is the best stack off-ball linebacker available. Yeah. And I'm really shocked that he hasn't even been given a visit yet by any team. Maybe they're like he's mulling over some offers and teams really want him, but I don't know. But I think for any team that like needs a linebacker really bad, like the Bengals definitely fit that bill. And again, he wouldn't count against the comp pick formula.
Now, Josh here wants to know what would how do you say his name?
Okereke.
Okereke. I'll get it right. If he becomes a Bengal, I'll figure out how to say it. Okereke. How much do you think he would cost?
Probably not that much. Like again, like the Bengals were in the, like I want to make this clear. Like the Bengals were interested in linebackers. Like they were interested in Quay Walker. I don't know how legitimate the Devin Lloyd thing was, but at least they were in the ballpark and they were willing to offer.
Chanel, they were definitely interested.
Who knows with that, right? So like Chanel cost $8 million. I think whatever Okereke would cost at this point is definitely in the ballpark of what the Bengals would be willing to spend.
There you go. So Bengals, go get it done. We'll see what happens here. The chat is blowing up here. I'm trying to get some of these up here. Oh yeah, I know we had a legend in here. Philly Mike was in here. He's a Philadelphia Eagles fan right there, and it says he played football. Well, there's another one. Oh yeah, he was shocked that somebody said shocked that Denver got the wide receiver. Where was the other one at here? Trying to do this on the fly here, and I can't find it. But he was talking about Cam Taylor-Britt. It came out that he signed with the Colts. That kind of surprised me, to be honest, because the way things went here with him and Lou, I didn't think the relationship was all that great. Maybe he doesn't have that many takers. And I had somebody reach out to me on Twitter and going, "Oh my goodness, now we got to get another defensive back," which they weren't bringing Cam Taylor-Britt back. So I mean, I always thought the defensive back is going to be they're going to draft one. So I wasn't surprised by that. But were you surprised that he went to Indy?
I guess that like I see that in terms of like, yeah, it obviously didn't end well in terms of him being benched his last year, but there were still a couple other productive, like obviously his best years were with Lou. So I feel like that probably went into the conversation as well. His market probably wasn't very hot. He only ended up getting a 1-year deal, which very much expected. Like at this point in his career with what he had going on this past year, I think he definitely needs this hard reset and just basically this reality check. Like, yeah, man, he was supposed to be the number one cornerback here for years to come, and it just all kind of went downhill. So I hope for his sake that he can rebound in a defense that clearly is loading up. Like they obviously traded for Sauce, and they were in on Trey, and then obviously the whole Baltimore thing happened. So yeah, like Lou has definitely gotten his guys. He obviously had Jermaine Pratt, and like he's got a couple coaches from that staff as well. So doesn't shock me considering how much the Colts have kind of surrounded Lou with guys that he knows. But yeah, in the sense of him being benched this last year, it is a little bit surprising.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the $5 super chat here from Fuzzy Balls. I don't want to have success be reliant on Shamar Stewart. Hope he progresses, but his rookie season was significantly. What is that word? I don't even know what that word is.
Reminiscent.
Reminiscent? Okay, I'll go with that. Reminiscent of his college career. My thoughts on Shamar is everyone needs to hold judgment off because he didn't get enough snaps last year at all to even educationally say he's going to be good or bad. I've had people say that he's a bum. This guy's a bum. That guy's a bum. I mean, Miles Murphy took till this year till he actually got snaps to actually develop. So they are going to rely on Shamar Stewart. That's the reason they drafted him. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that there, John?
Yeah. I mean, it's a new era for that room without Trey and Osai, and Murphy's kind of commanding it now. But I think based off of what Duke and Al have said about it, like I think there's going to be more of an emphasis on guys being rotated in and out, and that only increases the need for that fourth and fifth guy to be competent. Maybe that fifth is Cedric Johnson, but right now, like Shamar is that third, and no matter who they draft, I'm very much confident at this point that they're going to draft an edge relatively early. It could be as early as 10th overall, right? If Ruben Bain is there.
Bain,
right? Yeah. No matter who that guy is, he is a rookie, and they would lean to give significant snaps to Shamar right out the gate, and he needs to be better. And yes. I do think that the Miles Murphy kind of track and progression timeline makes sense because they were, relatively similar prospects in terms of being great athletes with questionable production. But that is a good point, though, because this is only Stewart's second year. And can you really expect that type of jump to happen so quickly, especially considering they didn't play very much last year? So I think you're still expecting a lot of growing pains this year with Stewart. You just hope that he's on the field a lot more and he can work through them. But it is very important that he does progress at least a little bit, and then whoever they bring in through the draft or whichever way that they add another guy, he also is very competent. Because again, if this defense wants to be competent, you need more than just two quality edges.
Yeah, one thing about the Steve, like before, and this is where I feel Bengals fans have gotten lost. Like before free agency started, we're like, we just want a competent defense. We don't need a top 10, if we get a top 20 defense, we'll be happy. And I feel like everybody's going, oh my goodness, we didn't add this guy, we didn't add that guy. It's like they did add, and it's like they didn't fill all their holes. Like they were never going to fill all their holes in free agency. It just wasn't going to happen. Most, because people are like, well, we had the Eagles GM. We would have done that. It's like, well, if we had the Eagles GM or a GM period, we probably wouldn't be in this situation to begin with. They probably would have done a lot better here. Now, Mike Madden here has a question. All right. Will the Bengals draft a slot corner or will they bring back Jalen Davis? They already re-signed Jalen Davis, but I think they're going to draft a slot corner. I think they're going to have to. I think they might draft two corners because first round, number 10 could be a corner too. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, depending on who's left. What's your thoughts on all that?
I mean, this is the problem. Like we can telegraph like their biggest needs in terms of where they're going to draft right now. It's going to be a defensive end. At this point, it's a linebacker because they haven't signed one yet, and a slot cornerback because I love Jalen Davis too. And honestly, if he's the week one starter, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world necessarily. But you don't have any depth there anyways, and it's a relatively easy position to identify in the draft. And those guys don't necessarily get drafted very early. Like Dax Hill fell in the draft because of that exact label that he was on. Like he wasn't a cornerback, he wasn't a safety, he was this nickel defender, and he ended up almost falling out of the first round entirely. So I think you could find that guy on day two. It's just a matter of is that guy going to be available when you pick on day two, or you're going to have to reach for someone? And that's always the worst case scenario for the Bengals. It's how they've made their worst picks in years past. So that's the problem. Like I especially don't expect the Bengals to fill every need in free agency, but I felt like this year was very easy to just enter the draft with just maybe one, someone pressing need. Like if slot cornerback was that pressing need, I would feel confident that the Bengals could eventually fill that in the draft. But right now they still need a linebacker and they still need a defensive end on top of slot cornerback. And that's just a really tall task, especially for them.
Yeah. The good thing is there is this draft, it does have edges and a lot of linebackers. So, do you really think Sonny Styles has a chance of being there at 10? Because after the combine, I'm like, there's no way he's gonna be there at 10. Then everybody keeps talking about, well, he might. Like, I still can't see that, but I do think Styles, Bain, or Caleb Downs is going to be there. I do think one of those three is going to be there. Am I crazy in that thought, or what do you think who do you think will be there at 10? That's a long-winded question to ask you. Who's going to be at 10? Sorry.
It's funny because while Styles and Downs are relatively less valuable positions, it seems like more likely that they won't be there at 10, and then Bain has a chance to fall just because he's got T-Rex arms. It was just kind of written in the stars, though, for me at this point that the Chiefs are going to take Bain because that's just what happens with the Bengals with the pick right in front of them.
But they did lose Cook, though. They lost him to us. That's why I think they might take Downs, to be honest.
Or they could take a cornerback, but yeah. I know like from people like talking about the Chiefs that like they ignored defensive end in free agency and they still have a need at pass rusher, and they've never been really shy at just taking the guy that ends up falling to them. And I think Bain would be falling to 9. Like I think he deserves to be picked higher, just like I think both Styles and Downs deserve to be picked in the top 10. I know people were talking about how a lot of teams in front of the Bengals had addressed the linebacker position unlike the Bengals in free agency, and that's why a guy like Styles could be there. But I just think that Styles is so clean, like athletically, tape, character, like that guy just shouldn't leave the first 9 picks. And if he does, it'll only be because like linebacker continues to be devalued. And I think it's going to be a little bit more valuable in today's NFL when teams are starting to run the ball again, and you need to stack the box a little bit more. And a guy like Downs in this draft class, especially when there's not a ton of players at these premium positions that are, consensus top 10 picks necessarily. A guy like him at the safety spot could easily be picked in the top 10. So I can see a scenario in which one of them are there, but I can easily see a scenario in which none of them are there.
That's what I keep going back and forth to. And my fallback with if none of those three were there, I was like, oh, it'll be Peter Woods. And I've kind of swayed on that one too from what he's done in the combine. He didn't do anything, and then he did okay at his pro day. What's your thoughts on Peter Woods? Would you, if he's there, if all those guys are gone, are you still in on Peter Woods, or were you ever in on Peter Woods?
I was in on Peter Woods, and if all of them are gone, I don't think he's the worst pick that they could make. It would definitely be more risky now compared to what it was like a couple months ago. But I think there's still promise about who he was earlier in his career. I think when you talk about like production questions, it definitely hurts when there was never anything really to begin with. Like Shamar Stewart never had any sort of foundation of production to begin with, and you're just expecting him to grow into something. And I think that's still a huge risk. With Peter Woods, there was definite promise about his production in his first couple of years, and then this past year it fell off, and you have questions about that. But at least there was something that you can bank on in terms of reverting back to that point. And the fact that he's still 21 years old is very promising as well. I want to dive in a little bit more into his athleticism profile. I don't really trust Raz cards. I feel like they leave out a lot of context, but I did see some promise in terms of his agility, and I want to see what his full speed profile looks like, because he only ran like a 10-yard split at his pro day because of his hamstring injury. So there are a lot of questions, and I do think it would be a risk, but I don't think it would be the worst first round pick in recent memory because there is some promise of production.
He'd be immediately compared to Shamar Stewart. Like, oh my goodness, we got a Shamar Stewart, because I've already heard that. So let's see here. I got a couple of questions starred here. Nate J84. I'm sure the Bengals had their eye on Falk, and that'll be the pick. What's your thoughts on Falk?
So I was not a big fan of Falk, when this whole process started out. But then again, diving more into the context of who he is, I don't think he's the guy that I thought would be compared to Shamar, because his pass rushing production is very limited and similar size, and not quite the same athlete, but still a pretty decent athlete. But you're thinking like, oh, this guy's another tradesy guy without a lot of production. But he is really good in run defense, and Auburn used him in other spots. Like I know that was also a thing with Stewart, where he was also kind of like a 4-eye or like a 5 technique, but like Falk was legitimately good in run defense at those spots, and I think he will eventually find a home as this 34 defensive end instead of like a true edge in the NFL. Like, he's got a weird body type where he's kind of like this hybrid type of player, and I think there is promise about him just being like a base down player. Like, you could hope to grow into an interior pass rusher. So I think he's almost like an interior defensive tackle pick rather than a defensive end pick. And that's why I'm like, I don't know where the Bengals like fall on that. I know that they're trying to morph into more of a traditional 34 defense, and there's more value with a guy like that. But I don't equate it to like, oh, like this is another like terrible pass rusher that the Bengals are drafting immediately. I think there's more promise to base off it with Falk, but obviously you would need a good plan with him because he is this awkward body type who is almost like you just need to figure out what his position is in the NFL.
Okay. Tom here. Ice or John, would you trade pick 10 for Crosby and a future pick, or move up the draft, or stay put and let it fall? Well, I've been on record. I would trade 10 next year's second round pick, 10 Shamar Stewart. I'd damn near trade anything to go get Maxx Crosby. I'm on record saying that. So that's what I would do. Go ahead, John. What do you got?
I floated out like 10 and Stewart for Crosby just to see what people would say.
That's what I'm saying. I think that might get it done if the Raiders are serious about trading them.
Yeah, I think the Raiders, like, they got the pick. They got the package that they wanted. They wanted 2 first rounders, and they got it from Baltimore, and then Baltimore failed his physical. Yeah, like, again, like, they're not getting it again, but I think if you're the Raiders, like, we don't think there's anything wrong with Maxx Crosby necessarily. And if we can have him and we're not going to get the price that we want, we clown the Bengals a little bit for this, about their staunchiness about, sticking to their price here. But like, unless they can get anything close to what they can get, I think they're just going to hold on to him. And I think desperation will creep up a little bit more when we get to the draft and the offseason and things like that. But I wouldn't trade more than the first for Maxx Crosby at this point, just because of everything that's happened.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, like, this whole thing, like, and I want to get, I've asked everybody this week, and Fuzzy Balls, I see your $5 super chat. I'll get to you here in a second. Since we are on the Maxx Crosby subject here, what is your thoughts on the whole situation? I'll tell you mine, and I think everybody's heard it, but to me, there's nothing on that medical that they didn't already see. Because, yes, he has a degenerative knee. He's had one that's got surgery on it. Yeah, he might need to get it replaced when he's retired. It ain't going to be this year. My opinion, they go, oh, crap. We gave up 2 first-round picks. We could get Trey Hendrickson for the same amount of money or less, get our first-round picks back. Plus, we lost how many guys in free agency? They lost their center. They lost their best tight end. They lost a lot. That's where I think they pulled the old crap handle and said, you know what? Fail him. We're going to go get Trey. That's what I think. What's your thoughts on this whole thing?
Yeah, I think they have plausible deniability with the medical because everyone knows that the knee is not in a good spot right now. And I think it was very clear and very obvious that no one expected him to be able to pass a physical right now. Like, I think the failed physical, like that just being like the label, like, oh, he failed the physical, so we had to revoke the trade. He was going to fail the physical regardless of where he ended up because he can't play football right now. Right. He just had surgery 2 months ago.
He can't touch his toes. Oh, no shit. He just got off crutches.
Right. So the plausible deniability for the Ravens is there. They were going to fail his physical anyways. I think that the next step was, oh, well, we can get a comparable pass rusher for about the same price, if not a little bit cheaper, without this major injury. We should probably just go do that. So I do believe that they saw his knee and didn't necessarily like what they saw. But the reason why it went up in smoke is because Trey was still available, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree with this. Faith Baptist, I hope you're right. Burrow was in Vegas last week. Or this week, maybe he's met with Max. That would be freaking awesome. All right, let me get this $5 super chat here to Fuzzy Balls. Okay, there are a lot of wide receivers who will be available in the 3rd round. If we were the GM, would you go for an upgrade at the 3rd wide receiver or gamble later in the draft? You mean 3rd round or 3rd? I think you mean 3rd round wide receiver is what I think.
No, I think he meant, yeah, third wide receiver, like next to Jason Higgins.
I think we need to add one for sure. But I mean, I'm talking 3rd round, 4th round, 3rd round, the earliest. Where are you at?
Yeah, I think again, like, this is why you would love if they had signed a couple more guys in free agency so you can have this conversation about the draft being open up a little bit more. I think it would be great to bring in like a day 2 receiver to legitimately challenge Joseph Osh and have that long-term replacement there, and someone who's maybe a little bit more of a natural fit in the slot, not necessarily a limited athlete, but like a guy who just runs the routes a little bit better from that alignment and can really open up, the rest of the field for Chase and Higgins. Like a guy like Antonio Williams from Clemson makes a lot of sense in the 3rd round. My sleeper right now is the guy from TCU. I forget his name at the moment, but I think his last name is McAllister. He has really great production, and you can probably find him in late day 3. So I think the Bengals will have options, and I'm not against ever drafting a receiver every single year just in case they hit. And you can always have that depth behind, Chase and Higgins for the foreseeable future.
And one thing, the Bengals are really good at drafting wide receivers. They usually draft the ones that are very talented. Faith Baptist here. We haven't forgot about David Bailey. I don't think either one of us think. I think he's a top 3 pick.
Yeah, he's not gonna be there.
That's why we haven't mentioned him. I mean, I'd take him if he was there. Let's see here. Trying to get through here. Okay, Ken wants to know here. We talk some basketball here. Who you got winning the NCAA basketball championship? I haven't even filled my freaking brackets out yet. I got to do that. Have you got a chance to do that yet, John?
No, but I saw Duke was number 1 in Ken Palm, so I'm imagining they're not winning.
Well, are they going to get their guards back? They're down 2 guards. I don't know if they're both coming back or not. So we'll see. I don't know about you, but I got a little more interested in college basketball once I heard Wes was gone. Like the sky. Oh, the sky has opened. we might be back. Let's see here. Tom Jones. Charlie Jones fell out of options. We have Tinsley, Gesicki, and technically a wide receiver. Hopefully, Eric comes back strong. Eric All. That's who that is? Eric All. All right, so let's talk Eric All here. Do you think tight end is in play? I think this is a deeper draft for tight ends, but they had one of the deepest drafts ever a couple years ago and needed a tight end and didn't draft any. So I can see them. I don't know. I can see them doing both. I can see them drafting one in the 5th round. I can see them not drafting one. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it should be very much a consideration because Drew Sample is how I classify borderline starter. It's the same classification I use as the linebackers, a guy that you prefer to not start, but they are in love with him. And who knows how long that love is going to last. He's got 1 year left on his deal. Mike Gesicki is not really a tight end, but we list him as one anyways. And you would love if Eric All came back and was healthy. And I think he will be able to obviously participate in training camp. It's just the problem is like, how much do you trust that knee? How much do you expect him to like, how long do you expect him to last before something else happens? And I think that's always going to be in the back of their minds. And until he proves for a span of like several years that he can be fine, I think that's always going to be a risk. So I would definitely be interested in drafting a tight end at the very least to just continue to push someone like Tanner Hudson and Cam Grandy and just make the position room better. Like a guy like Eli Raridan, I believe is how you pronounce the last name, from Notre Dame. He's like a late round option. Joe Royer, obviously a Bearcat. Yeah. I think he would make some sense as well. And the guy from Texas, I want to say his name is Jack Andrews, who was also an intriguing option on day 3.
Joe Royer would be an absolute freaking steal because we, me and Bearcat fans, did not use him the right way. They did not. That's a whole other conversation I can get into about UC coaches. I don't like our football coach either. Why the hell? Joe Royer, who's an NFL tight end, you don't throw the ball to 90% of the time. I don't even say 90% of the time. Most of the time, no idea. We're talking Bengals here. MB 34012. None of the defensive guys on the board. What offensive guy should we get? You mean pick 10 or just in general? I'm not sure.
If it's pick 10, I mean, like Jeremiah Love is also not going to be there. He's like a top 7 pick.
I'd be the one I go get if they get him.
I'm still very in on Mekhi Lemon just as a slot guy who can immediately just make the offense better. And I think the logic is also there because his contract would be up when T is going to be a free agent. So like that's just a natural, just like one for one type of replacement there. But yeah, like the value of having like a dominant slot, and that's why they've been trying to put Jamar in there a little bit more often. But someone that can just dominate from there just makes the guys on the outside a lot easier and a lot better. And again, it would be very nice if you didn't feel like that 10th pick would be needed on defense, because right now it still looks like it's needed on defense.
It's gonna be And one thing, it would have been, like I said, they would have had to fill every single need for it to not be needed on defense. So I always thought they were going to do it. And you said this earlier I think you said this earlier. It would be hard to, or not the most comfortable thing in the world to have a rookie and 2 second-year guys as your main starters at linebacker, which I'm agreeing with you for sure, but I would still draft Styles if he's there. I mean, that's just because that guy is that good.
He'd be the best player available. Probably.
Yeah, so and like I do think they're going to add somebody, and I really do hope it's I'm going to mess his name up. Abrike. There you go. Thank you. That guy from the Giants. That's what I hope it is. By the way, happy birthday, Brent. He said
birthday, Brent.
33rd birthday. I remember back in the day when I was 33. I'll be 51 in April. What the hell happened? Oh, yeah. Ridiculous how quickly it goes. Let's see here. Drafting potential, Shamar Stewart, instead of better players at lesser positions, needs to stop. If it takes 3 years for Shamar Stewart to actually make a difference, then you wasted all of his cheap years. I don't disagree with any of that. I think that's the part that people are most frustrated with the Bengals for. I'll say Miles Murphy and Shamar Stewart. Like, this year has got to be the first 2 picks, first second round pick, they've got to be impact players this year. That's where, let's just say they get Baines and then Galladay. I would say, because I think about linebacker. If they don't get a linebacker in the first round, I think it's coming in the second round, or vice versa. I will be shocked if it's not a pass rusher in the first round and a linebacker in the second round, or vice versa. Those are 2 things that they got to do. What linebacker? Let's put this: what linebacker for you in the second round would you be all in to get? Would it be Galladay, or would it be the kid from Texas Tech? Who, another one I love. Like I said, I always say this all the time. His wife is a badass. She's a Army helicopter ranger.
Yeah.
So I can't remember. Rodriguez. I think that's his name.
He'd be great. I think like Kyle Lewis is another one, probably in the 3rd round, but he's more of like a more undersized. He's probably like this safety linebacker hybrid. But Galladay, I think honestly, Galladay like matches the profile of what they were looking for in free agency, or what they were like, just projecting in terms of like a guy that could go down on the line of scrimmage, but like also drop back into coverage. I think he would make sense in like a trade back situation in the second round. But this is the Bengals; they would probably just take him with their second round pick and just take the reach anyways. So any of those three guys, I think, would make sense for what they need.
So I think like the two position, the one good thing, the two positions we're talking about, there are people in this draft that they can get and can be impact players. And there's no reason they shouldn't get an impact player first or second round, right? I mean, unless they completely screw this thing up, which they could. But I mean, I don't want to say it's Bengal proof, but as high as they're picking in both rounds, it's going to be hard to not get somebody that could be an impact player. I mean, am I reaching there?
I mean, define impact player, right? Because
start day one.
I mean, that's Demetrius Knight, right? He was a starter. He just wasn't good, right?
Yeah.
So like,
well, okay, start day one. That's good. I'll put it that way. Yeah, I'll put it that way. Yeah.
You would love it, man. You would love it for that to be the case. Like, I again, linebacker is weird because like if they don't sign one,
they gotta sign one.
But if they don't, like, are they going to force themselves into drafting one? Because right now, like Carter and Knight are your starters, and like their base defense molded into that 3-4. So there's only 2 linebackers on the field, anyways, and then your edge guys are just like kind of all, like 34 guys. And then you just wouldn't have Knight be on the edge. You would just have Boye Mafe kind of take that role from him. I don't know if they would force a pick, but like I just like they do need they need veteran leadership there more than anything. I don't know if they would force a pick unless Styles was there, unless by far on
even if Styles is there, I still want to get you still need a veteran in there. Sure. Or Burke, I would sign him. Never want to say his name right. Enrique, I'd sign him and cut Burke and take Styles. That's what that's what I would do. But yeah,
Styles I would take because again, like if he's there, he's probably the best player available. And I do want to address like Misha's question about like prioritizing positions over players necessarily. And I do agree because specifically with Shamar, I didn't think that he was a first round pick at all. Like at the time, I thought like a guy who was an uber athlete with horrendous production and tape question marks. You probably don't take that earlier than the third round for me. So yes, if it comes down to taking a guy who may play a lesser valuable position, but has everything in his profile just clears compared to a guy that has major question marks but plays a premium position, like that is how that sort of sways. It's not about the Bengals identifying positions; it's about identifying which players are good at those positions.
Right, exactly. Here, Nate. Here, when the top prospect falls, we just don't draft them. Seems like we make the pick before the day even starts. Like with Knight, we knew we were drafting him, and it didn't matter when the player was available. And I can't argue with that because from everything that I was reading, Knight was a third-round guy, and we could have got him then. It's from all the draft experts. And that's where I'm like, because I'm not going to remember the guy's name. There was offensive guard we could have had last year. Yes, thank you. And then the first round, hell, I would have taken the linebacker from the Eagles. Not Jahad Campbell. Thank you. I knew all these a couple months ago. I kept screaming about it. If they would have drafted those two, that draft would have been so much better, but they didn't. So, and and I get it. That's where Bengals fans have PTSD. We've seen them do this. We've seen them pass up good players after good players and go draft, other ones that, go reach and draft a Billy Price when you could have got somebody better. I mean, it's happened over and over and over again. And it's hard for me to sit there. And I always sound like I'm on Twitter that I'm trying to defend the Bengals, which I am to a certain extent, because I do think they did accomplish something so far better than they've done in the last 3 years, but it's not good enough. But if they go out and get a veteran linebacker here, I think that would make their offseason so far an A. I mean, if they get a legit linebacker, I'm not saying they're done, but I mean, that would fill their whole. I mean, you just said they can go get an edge in the draft, which is what they're probably going to do anyway. I mean, if they got that veteran linebacker, I mean, you fix 4. I mean, 4 guys they signed, and 4 of that could probably start. All 3 of them could definitely get started.
Like I think it's known pretty much at this point, but I think it's worth repeating and just clarifying, emphasizing, whatever the case may be. The Bengals view the draft as this way to fill needs with cost controlled young players. That's what it is, right? It's not how the draft should be approached, because your needs on April 23rd are not going to be the same needs on September 23rd or April 23rd of the next year or April 23rd of the next year, right? And these guys are on these locked in contracts for the next 4, in some cases 5 years. And it's designed to always keep your team in a good spot, regardless of what your needs are. But the Bengals always leave free agency with at least 1 or 2 glaring needs, feeling like, oh, we can just address those needs in the draft, regardless if the players that they drafted those positions are actually worth when they are picked. It was the same case with McKinley Jackson, the comp pick that they got from letting Jesse Bates, of all people, walk. They needed a nose tackle. They drafted McKinley Jackson, right? They needed a linebacker last year, and the guy in the comment section was completely correct. They entered the second round knowing that they needed a linebacker, and when the best ones got taken off the board, like Carson Schlesinger was the first pick in that round, the only guy that was probably worth that pick in the second round, they ended up reaching and taking Demetrius Knight. It is a terrible way of doing things, but it's exactly how they view it, because, again, these guys can't negotiate anything about the value of their deals, only like the guarantees and like how far into the contracts the guarantees go. And of course, it took the Bengals almost the entire offseason to get that done with Shamar Stewart, right? So like that's how they view the draft, and it's why they end up drafting really poorly most of the time.
Yeah. Now the Shamar Stewart thing, that was I blame his agent on that one, but I'm not like I'm not trying to defend the Bengals. I'm really not. But that whole agent that guy was a jackass. I think Stewart needs to get rid of him. Let's see here. Oh yeah, Ken here, and I want to get your thoughts on this one too. He says, I don't care what anyone thinks. I'm drafting Landon Robinson, Navy defensive tackle. They're in the 3rd round. What's your thoughts on Landon Johnson? Ken's been blowing me up about this. I know Dale from Bengals and Brewers loves him too. They got to interview him. I like Landon Johnson. I like everything I've never seen him play. I'm just going by what these guys are saying. He sounds like a good player to me. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, really good player. I think on sometime in day 3, I think it makes sense. He's just a little bit undersized. Of course, that was the thing with Aaron Donald, but I don't think you're talking about the same caliber of athletes here. The Bengals are interested, though. Like, they met with him multiple times at the Shrine Bowl. I think they went to his pro day at Navy, so it wouldn't surprise me if, again, like they leave the first couple rounds without the defensive tackle. He could be a target for them for sure.
All right, Nate here. I want to know if the front office ever looks back at all the losing they've done and think maybe we should try something new. You know what? We wonder the same thing. Obviously not, because they don't. I don't like saying they don't change, because they have, but they haven't changed enough. And the part that it drives me nuts the most this year is, and you touched on, the way they structure contracts is annoying, because they are so worried about future flexibility. I don't care about future flexibility. I mean, if they're worried about future flexibility, go renegotiate Joe Burrow's contract, which they can't do that. And that gives them plenty of future flexibility. So that's one thing I would love to find out, why they are so worried about that. Do you have any thoughts on why you think the Bengals are worried about that? Because it makes no sense to me. And like I said, I'm not a math guy. I say that all the time. Go ahead.
Do I have any thoughts on this? It's one of the most common thought of like the last 10 years of my life. The whole reason why people scoff at that is because they don't use the future flexibility. They create flexibility to create more flexibility. Like flexibility in their case begets flexibility, just in case something,
this, by the way, go ahead,
something crazy happens, right, in which they all of a sudden need to open up space because something completely unforeseen occurred, and all of a sudden, like, they just need to get out of it, right? It's why they don't guarantee contracts past the first year, because if something happens to that player in which they have to cut him after the first year, they're always able to do that. I think people would understand it a lot more if every now and again, like, they're conservative with their money, and then maybe in a couple years they end up doing something aggressive because of the flexibility that they set up, but they never do. It's this endless promise of, oh, we're just saving for the future. The future always arrives. You never do anything differently with it. Like, it's just their business model, and it's why they just take on as little risk as possible. And I think it's because, honestly, they're not entirely confident in their decisions, and they just accept the randomness of the NFL as it is. And that's why I think their process needs severe overhaul, because you can make better and more confident decisions, and then you can kind of put your money where your mouth is with those decisions, and you end up being better anyways. But they don't do that.
I got another question. We got like what 3 assistant GMs. Do you know who they assist? I'm still trying to figure that out. They actually
that is the funniest thing about the Bengals. They have 3 assistant GMs. They don't have a general manager.
I'm just curious who they're assisting. And the funny thing was, I've talked about this. That do they have more than just Katie and Troy negotiating the contracts? And Orlando talked to some guy named Sam or Smitty or whatever the hell his name was.
Steven Radicevich, who's one of the assistant GMs.
There you go. So that they do, I guess, negotiate contracts. So then why the hell do we have such a hard time? Why does it seem like when free agency hits, we can't keep up with it? If we got these 4 guys who are assistant GMs, what the hell are they doing? Why is it so hard?
I don't know if this year was specifically like they couldn't keep up with it. I think it was they had prices on specifically linebackers, and those prices were just topped by everyone else. I think they were in on a couple of guys, and they just I think for John Allen, I think they ended up having the best offer for him, and that wasn't an issue, right? And like you fill a need with a proven guy, and I think everyone for the most part is very satisfied with it. For whatever reason, it didn't happen at linebacker, and I think that it's frankly inexcusable how you just don't spend a couple extra $1 million on that because you have the flexibility to do that, because you save the cash to do that.
I completely agree with everything you said. I thought for sure Devin Lloyd or Chanel. I thought one of those two. I thought we were getting one of those two because they were in on them. So we'll see. All right, we got 999 super chat from MB3012. Say what it is. We're cash poor, which is not true.
No.
We're not cash poor. The Browns don't have liquid cash to go all in. All these owners have money outside of football, and our only chance is winning the Super Bowl. Get lucky. No, we are not. I'm sorry. That is completely wrong. We are not cash poor. We have plenty of money. They spend it. They just don't. They don't. I always say this, just like you're talking about. They don't spend it wisely, I think, to build the roster the correct way. Is that what way you put it, or you got some thoughts on it? Go ahead.
They have enough cash every single year to do the right moves, not necessarily the most aggressive things, not necessarily give Deshaun Watson $230 million guaranteed, a fully guaranteed contract. Maybe not, right? But I mean, it's not like they did anything remotely crazier compared to Joe Burrow, who got like $220 million guaranteed through that contract. They have the money to do all of these things the right way. And it's just about finding the middle balance, because yes, you don't want to end up in a situation in which like you're Miami and you end up having $170 million in dead cap this season, right? That is the complete other end of the extreme. And I think it's sometimes what fans look at like, oh, well, at least the Bengals aren't this. You can find a middle ground here. You can be from, right now they are completely ultra conservative, and there are some very ultra liberal teams with their money. You can find a happy medium in terms of picking your spots as to when to be aggressive. And every NFL team, no matter who the owner is, no matter what other business ventures that owner has the capital to find that middle ground. The Bengals need to be there.
Ken here says, Jeff, I do not think they have
not true
up front and escrow. Go ahead, answer that.
Not true. The escrow rules are not as strict as the public thinks it is, and these are the things that Bengals fans specifically have been eating up for years, and it's basically gotten the Bengals off the hook.
Yeah, it's not true. They could spend the money. They just choose. I mean, like I said, I'm the one that defends them, says they do spend money. They don't spend it. And like you just said,
the Bengals love people talking about money in escrow and cash poor. They love that shit. They eat that shit up.
Let's see here. I started a couple one here. Let me find them here. Okay. Now Nate here says Paul Danner said they didn't even offer Devin Lloyd or Chanel. I don't know. I heard they were in on them. I have no idea if they made an offer or not. Do you know if they did or they didn't? I mean,
doesn't make it any better, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you not offer Leo Chanel?
Right.
What?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know. Like if they're in on, the thing is like, what's the difference? If they're in on it, if people are reporting they're in on it, that means they're talking to them about money then, right? So they would offer them something, I would think. How are you not in on it if you're not talking to them about money on a contract?
If the report is that they're not in on him, it's not that like they didn't have any interest in him. It's just that they heard what they were getting they were being offered from other teams. Like, oh, we shouldn't even make an offer because we don't value this player at the price point that he's expected to get. It was very similar. Like with Kevin Zeiler, the Bengals didn't offer Kevin Zeiler. Were they interested in bringing him back? Of course, but they didn't offer him a contract because they valued him at a price significantly lower than what he was expected to get in free agency. And that's why he walked for the Cleveland Browns.
There you go. All right. I have not heard this. Anyone heard of us getting a new helmet or jersey this year? Coworker mentioned it the other day. A white helmet, orange stripes, a white jersey, and orange numbers. I have heard nothing about that. Have you, John?
I haven't heard anything about that.
I haven't heard anything. All right. Last 10 minutes here. I wanted to get we're gonna get you to put your Bearcat basketball fandom on here. So we mentioned it a little bit. We're both very happy that Wes Miller is no longer the coach. I am all in on Calhoun. I have some fairly good sources tell me that that's probably who it's going to be. But what's your thoughts on Wes leaving, and who would you want to be the next head coach for the Bearcats?
I gave Wes a couple of years because I was very intrigued by his recruiting process. And I figured, like Mick, he needed 4 years before he eventually made the tournament in year 5. So there was a long runway. The runway was the word I was looking for with Shamar Stewart earlier. But there was a long runway with Wes Miller. And I think especially even nowadays, in which it should be easier to put together a winning team much earlier in your career, especially at a program like UC that has the esteem of what Cincinnati basketball is. Like I think it's fair to have expected more out of him in the first couple of years. But then when it got to years 3 and 4 and then 5, like the patience ran out. And at some point, your ability to put together a good basketball team, but not to continue to forming those pieces and putting them in the right positions to succeed, and then having these consistent failures as a coach throughout these games and these seasons and these close losses, it's just inexcusable. And it completely set the program back continuously for a couple more years. I still am questionable about like the athletic department as a whole because of who's running it and the athletic director. So that's a whole other topic. But yes, I think if they do hire someone who obviously played under Bob Huggins and has had the coaching career that he's had, I think that is worthy of some promise, and I will give him some leeway and some time to eventually develop.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Wes, I said Wes had everything you wanted in a coach except the coaching part. Nice guy. He embraced the culture. And I said this on a post. The last 2 years, the talent he had, and you're in the Big 12, there's no reason he shouldn't have made the NCAA tournament. They could have been a bubble team. They should have made it the last 2 years. He had the talent to make it. His in-game adjustments, the way they ran an offense, the inconsistency. Hell, just look at the last game. He had 2 timeouts in his pocket, and Jizzle James dribbled it and passed it to her 7-footer who had no idea what to do with it. Then he called a timeout with it. 3 seconds left to go? That's the stuff he didn't prepare his players on how to handle anything. That, to me, has got to get fixed. Will Calhoun fix it? I have no idea. I like what I've seen at Utah State. He is a Huggins guy. He was a UC grad assistant here. And I'm with you. Cunningham's got to get this right. The only coach Cunningham has gotten right is the baseball coach. That's it. That is the only one. He's hired 3 of them. I think he hired Brandon. Am I correct on that? I
think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's gotten all 3 of them wrong. I don't care. Sat's got to. I don't know. Sat's got to do something really good. Get us to a really good bowl game this year for me to not want him fired. But I'm in on Calhoun. I hope he does good. But like I said, it made me feel like the sky opened back up. We got a shot at getting back to being a good college basketball team because we're not blue blood, but we ain't crap. I mean, we got a very good history of basketball here, and it just wasn't it. And if you're in the Big 12, if you are the top, I say top 5 in the Big 12, you got a very good chance of making the NCAA tournament. The Bearcats should be in the top 5 of the Big 12. They should be. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it's what the standard is, right? Like even if the program is definitely not the same as it used to be under Mick, like if you're here now, you have the resources to get this done. Like again, like that is the standard, and that's what the standard should always be.
Brad here says if Calhoun would want Terry on the bench as an assistant or continue broadcasting. I have no idea. Terry was on the show yesterday. He said he'd be interested in coaching, but we'll have to see if he does. Nate, their teams under Wes Miller always panicked. Yeah, yep, exactly. Crunch time. 5 times they blew an 8-point lead in the last 3 minutes of the game. That's the part that ticked us off. That's the part that was just so frustrating. How many times they blow big leads? I mean, just the Texas Tech game. They looked great the first half. Second half, I don't know what the hell happened. It was a completely different team. That's the same thing happened in the tournament game or in the Big 12 tournament game. So that's stuff that can't happen.
They didn't get a shot off at the last possession of the freaking UCF game. They had to call timeout with 0.8 seconds left.
I know. That's what I'm talking about. Like, what the hell are they doing? It's just, but trust me, I was down here screaming. Well, actually, I take that back. The game was going on while I was starting the show, and I'm trying to listen. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. And I'm like, we had an 8-point freaking lead. 8-point lead. It was, I think, less than 2 minutes, less than a minute left. You shouldn't lose that game. I don't give a crap. Anyway, John, this has been fun as always. I appreciate you coming on, dude. Hey, by the way, you are doing a great job killing it on your reels and everything on A to Z Sports. I appreciate it. I watch as many of the reels as I can. You do a great job on there, but go ahead and plug some stuff before I let you get out of here.
Yeah, I appreciate that. A to Z Sports, Cincinnati is pumping out a lot more video content nowadays. We did a lot of free agency reactions on our social media platforms, and we're doing like just one kind of long form YouTube video a week. I'll have that out sometime in the middle of this week, hopefully talking about a linebacker signing, but if not, talking about linebackers that they may be able to target. So follow that on A to Z Sports Cincinnati.
Sounds good, brother. Let's pray for a linebacker. We need a linebacker. See you, John. Thanks, brother.
Thanks.
All right, guys. As always, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Go follow John on A to Z Sports and, of course, the Orange and Black Insider Podcast. Him and the Godfather always do a great job, and I am always appreciative of their time that they give me. Shout out to our sponsors, T Properties, quality housing for quality people. Check out their website at www.tpropertiesllc.com for all your rental property management needs and your rental needs. And Party Lawn and Landscaping for all your lawn and landscaping needs. I don't know, you need your grass cut, you need a paver patio, you need anything. I mean, anything. Maybe you're a do-it-yourselfer. Maybe you want to buy some mulch, some gravel. Think Party Lawn and Landscaping. And, of course, Meyer Window Doors and more. I got them in my house. I highly recommend you get them in yours. Meyer Window Doors and more. And, of course, my favorite brewery, Cincinnati Lager House. Go on down there to the banks. Get you some delicious Lager House beer, some delicious Lager House food, and of course, tell all my sponsors you heard about them from Sports with Strawberry Ice. That's right. It's always thanks to all of my sponsors. You can see them all down here: Party Lawn and Landscaping, T Properties, Cincinnati Lager House, and Meyer Window Doors and more. Like I said, tell them Ice sent you. But thanks for watching. I've been live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, X, Twitch, Instagram. You can follow me on all those, along with Threads and TikTok, and check out my Substacks articles. I write some articles on there from time to time. I have one coming out here. I got an idea about linebackers. Might be writing about who I think they could get, why they haven't got one already. It's annoying. Like I said, they could have got Devin Lloyd. They could have got Chanel. They should have got one of them too. Let's pray to God they get somebody. We'll see what happens. But as always, check out my podcast. It's on BeanPod, Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google, Stitcher Play, pretty much wherever you get your podcast. Do me a favor. Listen to it, rate it, like it, review it, leave a 5-star review, and a comment so more Cincinnati fans can find my podcast. That just helps out the algorithm if you leave a review, just like if you hit the likes and you subscribe to the show and share the show out and everything like that. I would greatly appreciate it. Other than that, this is not good, by the way. Ben, you know what I'm saying? I can't say his freaking name. Visiting Baltimore. I would love them to sign him. That would be awesome, but I don't see that in the cards. But we'll see what happens. But as always, thanks for watching, guys. Remember one thing and one thing only. That is Who Dey for life. And then we throw it up. That's just sports, baby. See ya!
Another great show. You guys still here? The show's over. You can come back tomorrow. I'm out of here. See ya.